Welcome to Phil Builds Race Cars. Today we're introducing our first major race car project on the channel. Over my shoulder you'll see it. It's a 1980 Datsun 510. I'll walk you around it and we'll get some details. This is a 1980 Datsun 510. Some people don't like calling it a 510 because it doesn't have the independent rear suspension, but Datsun USA decided to call it a 510. It is a nothing special car right now. As a matter of fact, it has the wrong engine in it, so it makes less power than stock. But as you can see, Datsun/Nissan chose to call it a 510. It's not great, it's not pretty. Well, in my eyes it's pretty, but this is first look. You can hear it's running. It has a 2.2 liter Z22 truck engine in it right now that makes 82 horsepower. That's right, 82. Your Chevy Spark has more power than this. We'll go over the plans for this car here shortly, but I wanted to give you a walk around so that you can see what we're doing here. It does have 15-inch wheels on it. They're heavy. They're not very pretty. Some people say they're iconic, but I don't like them. So we're gonna change that up when it's done. It does have an air dam on it, but it's, well, I threw it on for a very long trip. Try to save a little gas, and it's gonna get replaced with a better one. Probably a splitter type air dam. Anyway, let's get this flipped around and we'll start talking about the plans. The plans for this car are pretty straightforward. Turn it into a race car. The details are not straightforward at all. This car is equipped with a lot of old parts that aren't made anymore. The aftermarket is not very kind to this car, but with some cross-referencing and measuring, we've found some good stuff for it. For instance, the front struts, they're garbage on a good day. So what we're going to do, after doing some measuring, we can put some S13 240SX or Sylvia front struts on this thing and have coilovers. That's the easy part. The front end's easy because basically it's 240SX with really bad struts. So sway bars, struts, bushings, all of that will get replaced up here. The rear end, however, that's a little different story. This car has a live axle. If you go outside and look under a pickup truck, you'll know what a live axle looks like. That's what this car has. They are not known to handle as well as the IRS cars, but they can be made to handle. So the goal here is to make this better. It does not have good gears in it. It has 354-to-1 ratio gears in it. Those are highway gears for these cars. Does not keep it in the power band anytime. So the whole rear end's coming out. We're going to replace it with one from a 200SX that's much newer. It's 4 years newer, but it has a bigger rear end. So it has instead of, this is a H165 rear end. That's a 165 millimeter rear end. It's strong enough for a stock engine, but you go much beyond that and you will bail it. We're going to an H190 rear end out of a 240S or a 200SX that has 410 gears. That's 4.10-to-1 ratio gears, and those will keep this car in the power. As far as the rear suspension, that's where the headache comes in. I'm actually considering doing some aftermarket parts for, believe it or not, a Kia. This car has a separate spring and shock arrangement. I could put a full coilover setup on it, but that would require reinforcing the body in places that really I don't want to have to get to, because right under this little shelf here is the gas tank. And if I don't have to mess with the gas tank, that's better. That saves a lot of money. This is an autocross build. This is not a full track build, so I don't have to put a fuel cell in it. That means I get to keep all the stock goodness-ish back here. Now, as far as shocks, I'm looking at possibly Coney Sports in the back and probably K2s or something of that type in the front. Interior, we're going to rip the whole interior out. We have to replace the entire wiring harness. It has a 1980 wiring harness that is routed poorly, and a lot of it has broken down over time, and there are some circuits that are shorted out due to the harness breaking down. So I'm going to pull the whole harness out and put a painless wiring harness in it for a hot rod and rewire the whole car. As far as ride height, well, duh, it's going down. It's going down a lot. It's going to be at least 2.5 inches down in the back and about the same in the front, keeping it fairly level, and it's going to be low. I'm going to try to fix some of the rust spots. I'm going to have some of the rust spots repaired by professionals that are out here in the open, like this one back here by the bumper. But other than that, I'm going to pretty much leave it. It's still got the original paint on it. It has a lot of patina to it. It's worn through in places. If you look right here, right there, it's worn through, but it kind of gives it character. So we're going to stick with that. The front seats are going in the trash. The steering wheel's going in the trash. The rear seats are staying. They're in good shape. The front seats are out of another 510, and to be honest, the 510 seats are garbage. So we're going to put new seats in there. Now for the engine and transmission, that is still somewhat up in the air. I've got a couple of options. One of them involves a whole lot of work, basically taking the whole drivetrain out and making new mounts for everything. And we'll get to that in a second. One of the options is just to replace the engine. This engine is a 2.2 liter truck engine, as I said before, but it makes 82 horsepower. Why does a big engine like that make so little power? Well, it's got no compression. It's 8.2 to 1. I found an engine for the same year car, but a different model. The same year, Datsun had a 200SX on the market with a fuel-injected 2 liter that had 9 to 1 compression and made 113 horsepower. And the goal is to make more than 82 horsepower. So that is one option. It will bolt up to the stock transmission just like stock. So that is the easy button, and that is an option. The tough button we'll discuss in a second. So this is the big race car project for the next year or so. This is going to be built. But first, we have to fix the daily driver. And this is where option 2 on the engine comes in. This is my daily driver. This is a 1995 Nissan 200SX with 3 little important letters. Yes, it's an SER. And yes, it has oil leaks. The back end is covered in little drops of oil and dirt has collected. Now, the ground here is soft, so I have mud on the tire. This car is not entirely stock. However, it has a gem under the hood. When I say gem, right now it's behaving. This is a tired SR20. That's right, an SR20. This is option 2. We put a new head and front cover on this thing, rebuild the internals, and shoehorn it in there. This engine, in its stock form, makes around 140 horsepower. That is considerably better than both other options that could be in there. 82 horsepower versus 140. Yeah. This engine does need a rebuild. The head is, well, the lifters aren't working properly. The timing chain tensioner isn't working properly. The timing chain has whipped long enough that it has worn a small hole into the timing cover. So this engine needs to come out and be gone through. This car is kind of souped up a little bit. It has obviously not the original wheels. These are inexpensive, very dirty, inexpensive wheels from somebody. I bought them off of Facebook Marketplace, but they are a 15-inch by 7. They're fairly light, and they work pretty well. And I've got some parts that I've collected from various people. Probably my favorite one is Andrew Buck up at Andy's Auto and Truck Accessories. He provided me with the exhaust, which I have modified a little bit. Sorry, Andrew, I couldn't stand the really loud muffler. So this is a full exhaust system from the cat back. And I also have the header to put on. That'll go on the new engine. So, full exhaust system. And then this car has a 22mm White Line Racing rear sway bar. And believe it or not, I managed to get my mitts on a full set of adjustable KYB AGXs for this car. It handles really well. But it's not a race car. This is my daily driver. Believe it or not. So, this is option 2 for the engine. So, first things first, this engine comes out and gets replaced. That means there's an SR20 waiting to be rebuilt. And if I rebuild that, swing around here, it could very easily go into this engine bay. I'm going to show you what this engine looks like here in a second. Let me open the door. We're going to pop this hood. This car currently has the 240SX's grandfather engine, a Z series. You'll see a family resemblance, except this is carbureted. The lean angle's the same, the valve cover is similar, even the exhaust manifold is similar. Like I said, this engine currently makes about 82 horsepower, so it's not powerful. That is the introduction to the race car project. Yes, but first, we fix the daily driver. Thank you for watching Phil Builds Race Cars. If you like the content on this video, please like and subscribe, and leave a comment if you have any problems with what I just had in mind. If you've got ideas on this project, feel free to leave a comment in the bottom down below. Thank you again.